And then I'll go ahead and start recording when we start getting people in.
The webinar is now live. Open.
We're live now.
Okay, so we'll wait and see.
Let me know when someone trickles in, and I'll just start as soon as someone comes in.
Yeah.
Let's see.
More options.
Cool.
Okay, it's already recording.
All right. Okay, I'll take it off then, and this is the part that people in the future will hear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, welcome everybody, or a lot of folks from the future listening to us on the archive, and to anyone trickling in as we go along the presentation. Today, I do want to let you guys know that today is going to start off or kick off something a little bit different to our typical presentation. Since we are a technology department here at the Trust Association for the Blind, or TES here has a technology department that I am a part of, me, Aaron Hoffman, and Bailey Alger, as well as Dan Hart. I want to sort of have these next few presentations showcase what we are capable of teaching people, what we do inside of the classroom and outside of the classroom remotely, and the sort of knowledge and information that we can help people obtain that helps people obtain things like upward mobility, or help them pick up an education, skill, and trade. Because in this world right now, no matter what job you go into, a very fundamental knowledge of tech is required, whether that be, Excel or Office Word or Outlook, or whether that be JAWS or Zoom Text or Fusion for the people who are visually impaired. So we here specialize in training people who are visually impaired on JAWS, Zoom Text, and Fusion. I'm a JAWS user, so I'll be using JAWS as the presentations roll on. But a lot of what you learn here translates over to both Fusion and Zoom Text. And to sort of break it down, Zoom Text is a screen magnification software. It blows the screen up a lot. It does things like invert colors. You can grayscale. You can change the schemes that you look at. Fusion is Zoom Text with JAWS. So it's a combination of the two. And then JAWS is essentially, and then JAWS is just a screen reader. Now, it's meant mainly for the blind, although people who have very low vision choose to use JAWS to lessen the strain on their eyes. Although Fusion is pretty new, so a lot of people who have very low sight opt to use Fusion because they get the best of both worlds. So those three pieces of adaptive technology are there, and they're very, very powerful, and they're very, very good at what they do, and that is making the environments accessible, the computer environment from software to software, practically fully accessible. It's a two-way street though. While those pieces of assistive technology make software accessible, it's also on the companies or developers who make software, for example, Microsoft or Apple, to make that software accessible to people with a multitude of disabilities. And that sort of extends to something like CPAC, which is a standard of accessibility for disability. But so today what I want to show you guys, or what I want to kick off, is a fundamentals of Word, or a fundamentals of Office class. And this is going to extend throughout the next few webinars. We're going to kick things off with Office Word 2019. That is the word processing software that comes packaged with the Office suite of applications, which includes Word, Excel, Outlook. Those are the three main components, but you also have things like Access and Teams and OneNote and other superfluous. Not superfluous. Other auxiliary sort of software. But the main components that we teach here are those big three: Word, Outlook, and Excel. So these next 6 presentations or so are going to cover those 3 softwares at a very beginner level. So we teach here we teach all 3 softwares from the most fundamental and basic concepts, like, for example, opening the program or saving a file, all the way up to high-level concepts like creating pivot tables on Excel to streamline data presentations, or making charts, or in Word, carrying out something that's called a mail merge, which can generate all kinds of documents, hundreds of documents at a time for reports. So no matter what level you feel you're at, if you're an experienced Office user, but just want to learn a little bit more to earn that promotion or to bring more to the table, or if you are someone who is transitioning into blindness and are sort of not really knowing where you fall in the blindness spectrum, where you fall in your skill set, we can teach you. You come to us and we can run you through an assessment. We can talk to you at a level, both a technological level and a blindness level and a needs level. We can sort of gauge what you need, where you need to start, and the tools that you need to best learn those things. So if you do want to go beyond what I'm going to show you tonight and these next coming weeks, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself, Eric.Cifuentes at austinlighthouse.org, or Dan Hart at dan.hart@austinlighthouse.org. Now, before I get started, I do want to let you guys know that the typical handout that's being shared, or that is normally shared, it will not be shared tonight because I am going to be pumping my computer audio directly to you guys. That way you guys have a much more crisp sound and presentation as I go about the presentation. However, the webinar, I did write up an agenda and we will have it available. We'll link it after the presentation. So if you like to read as you hear a presentation, or if you want to download it for future reference, it will be available. So don't worry about that. So without further ado, let's get started. And today we're going to kick off with Office Word. And Word, like I said, is just a word processor. In theory, it's really the most basic of the Office applications. You open it up and you start typing and text appears. And it really is that simple. But it extends far beyond that. You can open it and start typing in it like Notepad, but you can do so much more with it. For example, you can create reports that have various different attributes throughout the document. Let's say you're writing a paper for college or for university, a report that you're going to present or turn into a boss. You can have things like headers and footers on top and bottom of each page with things like numbers or dates or times of publishing, or you can have things like headings that say this is the title and here's a subsection of a block of text, and this part of the text you can bold or italicize. You can have sections with larger fonts or different colors of fonts, different colored texts. So there's the schemes that you can run with, or the schemes that you can use, and the sheer modification available to text is just, it's practically endless, right? Because there are so many fonts, there are so many sizes of fonts, or you can bold or italicize, strike through. So a lot of that is available, but if you're blind, or if you're someone who doesn't have much experience, you're going to ask yourself, well, how do I know if something is grayscale? How do I know if something is 12-point versus 20-point font? So, and that's a fair question, but JAWS does have a multitude of tools embedded into the fabric of JAWS that works really well with Office Word, with all Office products really, that will give you all those visual attributes on your screen, but auditorily. Or if you're using a Braille display, it will also output it in Braille. You can feel it under your fingers. Anything JAWS says, it will come out to the Braille display attached to the computer. And if you guys want to learn a little bit more about Braille displays, drop it in the suggestions, because we can definitely do something like that. So I'm going to start by opening Office Word just to show you guys the layout of the program and what you have. So let's go to the Windows. Let's hit the Windows key to find the search bar.
Search box edit, type in text.
And I'm going to type in Word.
Word app, press right to
Oh,
switch.
there it is. So hit enter on Word.
Enter. Opening dash, list box Word, new list box, blank document, 1 of 7.
So upon opening Word, you're automatically thrust into what's called the Backstage View of Word. And we're not going to dabble very much in here, but every time you open a new document or launch the application of Word, you're going to be in the Backstage View. And then here you can do a multitude of things. The first thing you are given is a list of different templates it gives you. And a template is just a predefined, it's a predefined set of attributes and visual cues and different things that you can fill in or create. Microsoft has several that it includes with Word by default. The initial one is just a blank document, and that's just a 12-point Calibri document with nothing in it, with single line spacing and nothing else. It's very basic. But you can make them as complex and as visually appealing, or you can have pre-filled fields or pre-text in there. If you have something that you fill in on a regular basis, you can streamline things. You can create a template that has everything you need already filled in, except for those things that change, those variables that change every time you use that document. But we're going to keep it short and simple today. So I'm going to leave the Backstage and just open my blank template. So I'm going to, as soon as I open the Word application, I hit escape to leave the Backstage view.
Escape. Print view, edit.
All right. Now you heard a few things, print, view, and edit. So upon opening Word and leaving the Backstage, you're put into what's called the main pane of Word, or the document pane. People call it a lot of things, the edit pane, the document pane. In this presentation, we're going to refer to it as the document pane, because that's where you put in the document text. All document text goes into the document pane. It is very basic. For example, I could just start typing right now. So I'm going to go ahead and just type my name.
E-R-I-C space S-I-F-E-N-T-E-S.
And I'm going to hit up arrow to read this line. Let me hit enter and then hit up arrow. So there you go. I hit up arrow, which said my name, and then I hit down arrow, which said blank, because this is a 2-line document. Top line has my name, bottom line is blank, where I can start typing again. I'm going to go ahead and delete everything. All right. Today, we're not going to focus too much on selecting text and deleting. What we're going to do is get oriented with the layout of this application, because Microsoft is very good about giving us a very similar layout, regardless of what application we're using. For example, Word, Excel, and Outlook are all going to have the same panes or the same layout, except for a few different qualities or a few different things that change based on that application's use. For example, instead of having a document pane, Excel would have a spreadsheet pane where you have your blocks of cells, or Outlook would have your inbox pane or your calendar pane for, well, sending email or creating appointments and meetings. Other than that, there's really no difference. All the applications are going to have these things. So starting from the top, at the very top of the screen, if you're a visual learner, top center, you have what's called the title bar. Every application has this, regardless of being Microsoft or Apple or Adobe. And that is just the name of the bar, the application that you're working with. In this case, I'm working with Microsoft Word. So in this case, it's going to say something like Document 1, Microsoft Word. Document 1 is the default name of my document because I have yet to save it. And Microsoft Word is the name of the application that I'm working with. To double check what the title bar says, you can just chord insert T. So I'm going to hold down the insert and then press T.
Title is Document 1-Word.
All right. Now, this is a good keystroke to use to know exactly where you are or what application your focus is on. And so before I go on, I want to explain some things. Focus is just where JAWS or the cursor that's blinking on the screen is in. In this case, my blinking cursor is in Microsoft Word, in the middle of Microsoft Word. The application is what it says. I mean, the application is synonymous with program or window. Application in this case is Word. I have my other window that's open right now is Zoom, but my focus is not on Zoom because my focus is currently in Word. If my focus was on Zoom, then for example, pressing tab would not do that in Zoom. It would move to the next control type. All right. So just to get some lingo out of the way right there. And again, just to know where your focus is at or what application your focus is in, insert plus T will read out the title bar. And the title bar, again, is just the name of the application that you're working in. All right. So, oh, one more thing. A keystroke or chord is synonymous. A chord, like on a guitar or on a piano, is two or more key presses or holding down two or more frets at the same time to create a distinct sound. Well, in Word, I mean, in JAWS or in just keyboard usage, a chord is two or more keys pressed simultaneously to carry out a distinct action. For example, insert by itself does nothing. T by itself
T,
just enters a T on the screen.
T.
But if you hold down insert and press T,
Title is document 1-word.
you're going to read the title. This is what gives JAWS so much flexibility, because if you could only use one key at a time, then JAWS would be hindered by that limitation. But if you can hold down three keys at the same time and have it carry out a different action to holding two keys down at the same time or one key down at the same time, now you've given JAWS hundreds of different combinations of keys to work with to carry out these hundreds of different commands. And we're not going to go too far down the rabbit hole, because learning these commands or all of these commands it's really just a test of time and experience, right? I've been blind for 5 years, and I mean, gosh, I wouldn't say that I have a lot of keystrokes down compared to some of my colleagues, but you know, I'm decent. But it's just a matter of remembering the most important or commonly used ones in your repertoire or in your daily use. So moving on from the title bar, we're going to get into the actual bread and butter of the program. Now we're going to talk about what are called the three main panes of Word. So I've already talked about one of them, and that is the document pane. And that's where you put in all of your information, all of your different text. Your recipes go in here, your shopping list, your table with test scores goes in here. Whatever you have to write down goes in your document pane. All right. Below the title bar, we have what's called the ribbon. And the ribbon is just one big, massive collection of different tasks or different actions that you can carry out in Word. For example, if you wanted to change the font in the document pane, or if you wanted to make text larger, or if you wanted to adjust the margins on the edges of your page, or if you wanted to make a document double-spaced instead of single-spaced, you would do all of this from within the ribbon. So the ribbon on its own is just a collection of actions that change attributes or appearances or cause actions to happen in the document pane. By itself, the ribbon, it's just like a portal or just a control panel. And every button on this control panel causes something to occur in the main pane or the document pane. So without, you know, that's all it is. And we'll talk a little bit more about the ribbon later, but that's the other main pane of Word. And then finally, you have at the very bottom what's called the status bar. And every application has a status bar. And the status bar just contains a bit of pertinent pieces of information that you can utilize to sort of familiarize yourself with what's going on in the document pane. And there's a common trend here, right? The ribbon and the status bar both either influence or give you information about what's happening in your document pane. That's all they are. They're supplements to the document pane. They're supplements to word processing. And in your status bar, you're going to have bits and pieces of information. For example, you're going to have a word count in there. You're going to have a page count in there. You're going to have the zoom level, like how far zoomed in to the screen you are. And you're going to have something called the accessibility checker, which is a quick little check for accessibility. And we'll talk about that later as well. But first of all, to read what's on the status bar, you can read what's on the status bar by recording insert plus page down. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So I'm going to hold down the insert key and then press page down.
Page number, page 1 of 1. Spelling and grammar check, no errors. Language English left parent, United States right parent. Overtype insert. Accessibility checker, accessibility : good to go. Focus. Zoom out. Zoom in. Zoom 100%. All right, so
right there we heard a lot of information, a lot. Pertinently, we heard page count 1 of 1. There should be a word count, but it didn't say anything because I don't believe there are any words in the document. But it should give us a word count. And we learned that the zoom level was 100 and that our document is currently 100% accessible. The accessibility check was ran, and it ran with absolutely no issues because, well, there's nothing in here to check. So again, insert page down will read to you those things on the status bar. And the ribbon can be accessed with the Alt key. Just pressing Alt once, like so.
Lower ribbon, home tab to switch pages. Press Control plus Tab, Alt followed by H.
That puts us into the upper ribbon. Now let's hit Escape.
Escape, leaving menus, leaving ribbons, edit.
And hitting Escape is going to put us back into the document pane. All right, so those are the three main panes of Word. And to show you how to cycle through those panes, or you can cycle through these different panes by hitting the F6 key. F6 across all Office applications is going to be your default key for cycling through the different sections of Word. Pane, in this case, P-A-N-E, like a pane of glass, is synonymous with section or part. Word is split up into these three main parts. We have the status bar at the very bottom, the document pane at the middle of your screen, the ribbon above that, and I guess you could say four, because the title bar is at the very top of the screen, with the quick access toolbar to the left of it. And that's just like a mini ribbon with quick access actions up there. But we won't talk about that one today. We're going to focus on those main three things. So you can cycle through those three parts of the screen by hitting the F6 key. So from the document pane, I'm going to hit F6 once.
F6, status bar toolbar, status bar, page number, page 1 of 1 button to activate, press enter.
I'm going to F6 one more time to leave the status bar.
F6, lower ribbon, home tab to switch pages, press Control plus Tab, Alt followed by H.
F6 one last time to move away from the ribbon.
F6, document pane, leaving menus, leaving ribbons, edit.
So we started off at the document pane and we ended up at the document pane. If I were to hit F6 one more time, I would end up back at the status bar like so.
F6, status bar toolbar, status
bar. Oops, but I didn't mean to hit F6. So if I wanted to go back to the document pane, but without having to hit F6 multiple times to cycle through the different panes, I could go backwards. Just like moving forwards, JAWS will always give you the ability to move back. If you can move in a certain direction, JAWS will allow you to move backwards in the opposite direction. And in this case, Shift F6 will do that. That's a keystroke. F6 by itself is not a keystroke. It is a simple key press. Shift F6 is a keystroke, and this is the ability to cycle backwards in the pane view. So let's Shift F6 from the status bar.
Shift F6, document pane, edit.
Okay, cool. Now we're back in the document. And if I were to hit Shift F6 from here, I would end up in the ribbon instead of the status bar because we're moving backwards now. And that's all it is to it. You can have what are called temporary panes, and these are just panes that exist temporarily because they are not part of the main presentation of the screen. For example, I'm going to give you one quick example, the styles pane. I'm going to hit Control Shift S to open the styles pane.
Control Shift S, style name, edit, type and text.
All right. Now, let me show you something. I'm going to go ahead and hit F6.
F6, status bar toolbar, stat F6, lower ribbon, home tab, F6, document pane, leaving menus, leaving ribbons, F6, apply styles, style name, edit, F6, status bar toolbar, status.
So notice how there's one extra pane now when I hit F6. That would be the styles pane. Now, you can close this by F6ing or Shift F6ing back to the styles pane.
Shift F6, style name,
once you're in the pane that you wish to close, simply hit Control Space, record Control Space.
Control Space, menu, move to move through item.
And down arrow to close.
Reside, help, close, C. Leaving menus, document 1, edit.
Now by F6,
F6, status bar.
We have the status bar again, no styles pane. And we're not going to talk about the styles pane today. I was just showcasing it. I was just showcasing how you can open and close panes by default. There are a few other temporary panes you can have open. There's a styles pane and there's a spell checker. Those are the two main ones that you're going to encounter. And I believe if you have the header footers pane open, you can move between the header footer section of the page, that's the bottom and top of the page that you're on, back to the document where most of the text is written or stored. So that's just to show you how to get around the basic layout of the of a Word application and how to move between the different panes or parts of the screen. All right, and all of this will be found in the handout. So if you are a reader more so than a listener, this will be available too. Or if you want to do both, knock yourselves out. All right, now moving on.
Word count. Escape. Edit.
Let's explore the status bar. So let's get back to the status bar.
F6. Status bar toolbar. Status bar. Word count 0 words.
So in the status bar, it runs horizontal, like all bars, right? Or like most bars, navigation bars, status bars, ribbons, they run horizontally across your screen visually. So in this case, you're going to move with the left and the right arrows to move across the bar, okay? So by default, you heard, I'm gonna hit Insert Tab to repeat the last thing that was spoken.
Word count 0 words.
Word count 0 words, okay? And I've already hit enter here, it would activate the word count dialog box, and then I can learn a little bit more information about the document, the words, for example, and how many characters are in the Word document, or how many spaces. That's a little too much for this presentation, but it's there. Now, if I hit right arrow,
Spelling and grammar check no errors button to activate, press enter.
spelling, grammar, no errors. Again, if I hit enter, it's going to activate spell check.
Language English left parent United States right parent button to activate.
My documents in English, and by default, Microsoft will open documents expecting you to write in English. You can change that as well. You could write in Chinese, you can write in Spanish, you can write in Japanese, provided you have the keyboard or the setup for it. So that's one cool thing about Word. It's very flexible. And if you wanted to run a spell check using Spanish dictionaries, for example, you could do that.
Overtype insert button to activate.
Overtype, that's just a mode.
Accessibility checker, accessibility good to go button.
And here's a good one for anyone who's in, for example, college or working. If you receive a document, a Word document from an employer or professor, you can navigate over here to the status bar and navigate over to the accessibility checker. If you feel that there's more that can be done to improve the accessibility and readability of a particular document, you can navigate to the accessibility checker, and it's going to run an accessibility check, and it does it all the time. So look, I'm going to go ahead and insert tab one more time to read.
Accessibility checker, accessibility good to go button.
Accessibility checker, good to go. If there were certain things that could be done in the document, you could hit enter here. It would, well, first of all, it would say, hey, there's some things you can do here to improve accessibility. And second of all, you could hit enter here, and it's going to open up a list of different things that you can do or suggestions that you can do to make the document accessible. And you could run this back, or if you have, you could do one of two things. And if you're a fix-it guy and you have an understanding of how to make something accessible, just take what it suggests and apply it. Or you could kick it back over to a quality assurance person, or back over to your boss or professor and tell them or let them know, hey, these are sort of the things that you can do to make this document more accessible for my disability, or to make it easier for me to use. And that's again in the status bar, just F6 and then start arrowing.
Focus button.
And here we have focus.
Mode tab.
And here we can change things like the reading mode. We can change the document layout to print
Web layout.
or web layout, and this just changes it to look either like a piece of paper or a web page.
Zoom out button.
And we can zoom out and zoom in. If you're a partial, you can come down here to the status bar
Zoom in.
and quickly zoom in and zoom out.
Zoom 100.
And to the right of those is the zoom level, and it's going to tell you how far in you're zoomed.
Zoom 100% button.
Right now I'm at 100%. If I were to hit
Zoom in button.
zoom in,
Zoom 110. Zoom in button. Zoom 110% button to act.
I've zoomed in 10%. So it's a really quick way for someone who wants the document a little bit bigger or smaller, or zoomed in or out, a quick way to do so.
Page number, page 1 of 1.
And now I've just wrapped back around to the page number.
Word count 0 word.
So I could just hit right arrow forever, and I'm just going to keep walking down the street. That loops on and on and on and on. But that's all the status bar is. You can come here with F6 and start arrowing, or you can get a quick overview or summary of what's happening in the status bar by hitting F6 once and just arrowing about. Okay, now let's hit escape.
Escape, edit.
And we're back in the edit pane. So you can hit escape to leave the pane, and by default, you'll be put back into the edit pane, or you can hit F6 to cycle back around to the document pane. And one thing that you guys need to understand about one thing that you guys need to understand about Office is that just like driving a car, you can take multiple different avenues to get to the same destination, right? You can get to our company by taking different streets or the highway. So Similarly, you can carry out an action and get to a different menu or get to a different command several different ways. That doesn't mean that one way is better than the other, but it does mean that one way might be quicker or more efficient than the other. But if you're learning and you pick up a certain way to do something, then do it because it works. And these more efficient ways of transportation are going to appear or are going to become more familiar to you as you familiarize yourself with the way of getting around the program, getting around the ribbon or getting around the status bar or getting somewhere. Just like driving, you got to get familiarized with the lay of the land before you can actually start to give people, or before you can start driving without looking at GPS or at an atlas. Okay. I want to showcase the ribbon because this is literally where I would say 90% of all the action in the document happens. You can write to your heart's content here in the document pane, right? But you can't change the appearance of this text without interacting with the ribbon. So to open the ribbon, you can F6 twice, you can Shift F6 once, or you can just simply hit Alt. Once again, it's just that different avenues of transportation. So get acquainted with the Alt key because it's something that you're going to use throughout the duration of your use in the Office suite of applications. So let's hit Alt.
Lower ribbon, home tab to switch pages, press Control plus Tab, Alt followed by H.
All right. We're actually in the upper ribbon, so it did lie to us a little bit. Anyways, here we are at the very top of the ribbon at the far left. And what the ribbon is, it's a combination of two features. The top line is what's called the upper ribbon. And that's a line that runs horizontally across the top of the screen, near the top of the screen. And it has several different tabs. If I'm correct, it has 9 tabs. If you exclude, contextual tabs. And we'll talk a little bit about that later as well. So these 9 tabs go from left to right. They're the Home tab,
Insert tab to
Insert,
switch pages. Draw tab to switch
Draw,
pages. Design tab to switch pages. Layout tab to switch pages. Press References tab to switch pages. Mailings tab to switch page. Review tab to switch page. View tab to switch pages. Help tab to switch pages. Leaving menus. Share button.
Okay, so we went through the different tabs and then you heard leaving menu. So I went as far right as I could go in the ribbon and then I dropped off the side of the ribbon. There are no safety rails here. You just fall off the side of the road. So you can climb back up by hitting left arrow.
Lower ribbon, tab document 1-word, tab, help tab to switch pages.
You've climbed back at the end of the ribbon on the far right of the screen. And if I were to drop off at the right, if I were to hit right arrow once more.
Leaving menus, share button not checked to active menu, comment sub menu.
I'm at what's called now I'm in the backstage view. And that's just the stuff behind the ribbon. We won't talk about that today. We're going to focus in the ribbon. I hit escape twice. Once suffices. I just hit it because my finger slipped. So hitting escape is going to drop you out of the backstage and back into the document. All right, for this presentation, we're going to just focus on the ribbon. So you heard things like Home tab, Insert tab, Layout tab, Review tab. And all of these different tabs contain different sections or different pieces of actions that you can carry out. And each action that you can carry out is related to that tab. For example, the Home tab is going to have things like changing your font attributes, or it's going to have things like copy and paste. You can add bullets or change these line spacing of the document. That's the Home tab. But the Insert tab is not going to have that because the Insert tab has its purpose in its name, insert, right? You're going to insert things like tables or pictures, web links, hyperlinks, just a multitude of different things or objects that you can pull into the document. Page layout tab is going to have to do with the layout of a page. For example, you can add more pages, right? You can adjust the margins, the edges of the pages. You can make them wider or shorter. You can increase the width of the page. For example, you can change the width and height of a page for printing. So anything that has to do with how the paper physically looks, you can do in the page layout tab. Review tab is for things like spell check or bibliographies, creating citation sheets, running word counts, stuff of that nature. Draw tab is where you can go in and actually use virtual brushes. Not something I do. Unfortunately, that's not going to be accessible for someone that's completely sighted, because completely blind, because that does rely on things like the touchpad and drawing, like literal drawing. But it's there, and it's cool if you can use it. So what I'm trying to showcase is not one particular action. It's just how all these different tabs lead to different actions. Think of the upper ribbon as a main thoroughfare running down the center of a city, right? Okay, so let's hit Alt.
Lower ribbon, help tab.
All right, we're on the help tab right now. So we're at the very end of the thoroughfare, right? This thoroughfare is also a cul-de-sac. Okay, so we're at the very end of the thoroughfare, and all the streets that intersect this thoroughfare are T intersections, right? They're all one-way streets. So it's a really weird street that traffic flows down. And each different street that intersects the upper ribbon is one of our respective tabs, right? For example, the help tab, or I'm going to arrow back to the left arrow back over to the home tab.
Review tab, mailings tab, references tab, layout tab, design tab, draw tab, insert tab, home tab, switch pages.
All right, now I'm at the very beginning of the street, or the end of the street, right? Because it's a line segment, right? You could say it doesn't have a beginning or end, just beginnings and ends. Okay, so we're here at one of the edges of our street at the home tab. All right, and like I said, all of these streets are T intersections, so you can only turn one way onto them. And in this case, we're going to turn left onto the street. So we're going to turn, yeah, we'll say left. It doesn't really matter because this is a theoretical analogy, right? So we're going to tab from the home tab one time. So let's go ahead and tab.
Home, clipboard, paste split button, press Alt plus down arrow for more options, Alt followed by HV.
And now you heard something, paste split button, all right? And that's just the first address or the first business down the home tab, right? Just like streets, when you turn onto a street, the businesses are going to differ, right? The paste split button is our McDonald's that you turn onto, or that you first see when you turn onto the home tab. Now let's shift tab once, because now we're going to go backwards instead of forwards.
Home tab, switch pages.
And now we're at the beginning of the home tab at the main thoroughfare of the upper ribbon. I want to go down the upper ribbon once.
Insert tab.
To insert street or insert tab. I'm going to tab once now.
Menu, cover page, submenu to move through the.
So now you hear cover page submenu. In this case, that first business, instead of being McDonald's, is a Wendy's, right? Because the street has different things on it, or different actions, different controls, different things that you can carry out that interact with, or that change certain attributes of the document. All right, the last thing I want to talk about is, just like going down the street, sometimes you see a McDonald's on one street and a McDonald's on a similar street. And this sort of comes back, or wraps back around to the analogy that there are different ways of carrying out the same action, right? You can go to different McDonald's, but you're still going to be able to buy a Big Mac at a given McDonald's. So for example, if I wanted to insert a page, I could insert a page from the insert tab, or I could go over to the layout tab, find the break submenu, and in there, I can insert a page break. Same thing as inserting a page. Same, different method of getting there, same result. Different McDonald's, different street, same product. Big Mac. Amazing code. All right. That's the ribbon in a nutshell. All right. The upper ribbon contains your main thoroughfare of tabs, and the lower ribbon is like turning onto a street with different businesses. And in this case, these businesses are actions that interact with the main part of our screen. And this is not word specific. This is an office specific, or office specific feature set. The ribbon is going to be here in Word. It's going to be here in Excel. It's going to be here in Outlook. But Word is just a great place to start teaching the ribbon, because unlike Excel, the main part, or the main section of the screen, the document pane, it's very simple. You type, you write words in it instead of having different pieces of text. Instead of having different blocks that you have to learn, or a grid of a grid of Excel cells or different emails. So in this case, we start off with a very simple and yet very intricate application. Okay. And before I go on and showcase dialog boxes, I want to give you guys a small reprieve because we've covered a ton of information. So I want to showcase how you can obtain help really, really quickly. There are different ways of obtaining help directly specific to the given application. And so in this case, it's going to be Word. The first way that I want to show you is by chording Alt plus Q. All right, Alt plus Q. Let's go ahead and do that right now.
Alt Q ribbon. Type to search and use the up and down arrows keys to navigate submenu. Microsoft Search Edit. Type and
all right, and this is just the tell me what you want to do or the Microsoft search box. And then here, it's like the Google Maps of Office, right? Here you can locate an address, but it's super modern because instead of telling you how to get there, it's just going to transport you there. And I'm glad that doesn't exist yet because then I wouldn't have an excuse to get late to work. No, I'm kidding. But it's right here. And for example, I'm going to go ahead and type in the word margin.
M-A-R-G-I-N.
Okay. So here it's populating my results with actions from the ribbon that have the word margin in them, right? So anything in the ribbon that contains the word margin is going to be populated here. Now, don't hit enter because this is what's called real-time population. And that's, think of when you search something on Google and it starts to suggest potential search queries that you might want. So instead of hitting enter, I'm just going to go ahead and hit down arrow.
Blank menu, adjust margin sub-menu to move through items, press up or down arrow. Leaving menus, adjust margins, lower ribbon, list box, adjust margins, list box, last custom margin.
All right, so I hit down arrow once and I got exactly what I was looking for, the adjust margins sub-menu. This is located in the layout tab. I know it's located there because I've used it a ton. But someone who just wanted to adjust margins and had not yet familiarized themselves with the the ribbon navigation and where things are, they might want to use this because, hey, it's just like using GPS. You want to know where you're driving to and what streets to turn on, and not just aimlessly wander about the city because you're going to look silly and it's not very efficient, right? So if I wanted to do that, I'd hit enter, and it's going to activate that action as if I were already in the layout tab and found this particular thing manually, right? Instead, it's going to search for it. Now I'm going to show you one more thing. I'm going to hit Alt Q again.
Alt Q ribbon.
And this time I'm going to type in the word font.
F-O-N-T.
And I'm just going to down arrow.
Blank menu, font size sub-menu, lower ribbon, list box, font size, list box, 9 button select.
So here we are in the font size. That was the first thing that populated.
Escape menu, leaving menus, font size sub-menu to move, 9 button selected. Escape menu, leaving menu, font size sub-menu to move.
There we go.
9 button selected. Leaving menus, menu document 1.
I'll show you the different results that come out when you type font.
Lower ribbon, list box, font size, list box, 72, 8 button selected.
Okay, so that's the main thing, I guess.
9 button select.
Usually,
leaving menus,
you'll get things like font size, font type, font style. There are going to be different applications or different pieces of commands that have the word font in them. My computer's just acting a little silly, but you would arrow through these options, and when you found the thing that you wanted to change, you would hit enter on it, enter or space. So that's the tell me what you want to do search box. Alt Q will get you there. Type what you want to see or type what you want to look for, just a particular keyword like margins or font, and just start down arrowing till you find what you want, and then hit enter.
Escape.
All right. Another thing that I wanted to show you. Another thing that I wanted to show you is the okay. The other thing I wanted to show you was the finding help documentations on the JAWS help documentation. So for example, let's say you wanted to find I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart here. I apologize. Let's say you wanted to find the JAWS documentation for Office Word. You can get directly to that by hitting Insert and F1 twice. And by that, I mean is you hold down the Insert key and you press F1 twice quickly. So I'm going to hold down Insert and just double tap F1.
Once you pick a topic and press enter on it, use the F6 key to move to and read the information window. Popular applications, contents page, preview, topic word, 11 of 11. To move through or expand items, use the arrow keys.
All right. So now that we have arrived to the JAWS specific help file for Word, we can hit enter on it.
Enter.
And then hit F6.
F6. Page has one heading and 7 Microsoft Word. Heading level 1.
And now we are in the help file that JAWS supplies for Microsoft Word. So again, just hit insert and hit F1 twice. And then it'll put your focus directly on that help file for the Word document. Or if you were in Excel, just do that, insert F1 twice quickly, and you would see the Excel help file. And this is not a Microsoft help file, this is a JAWS help file. So everything that you read here is going to tell you how to use Word with JAWS. And it's a vast repository that comes packaged with JAWS, and there's even more that it's going to link you to on the internet. Freedom Scientific is really good about providing resources to work with JAWS. All right.
Escape.
The last way of getting help.
Microsoft heading level. Microsoft Alt
F4 out of here.
Microsoft Word document. Document 1-Word.
All right. The last way of obtaining help is simply to hit F1. And this will just get you help information directly from the internet specific to that application. So hitting F1 here would open the Microsoft website and put you onto the Word help, the Word help repository, right? So everything that Microsoft published that comes with Word would be there. Same would be for Outlook and Excel. So those are the three main ways of obtaining help from within the Microsoft environment. Insert F1 twice to get JAWS-specific help relevant to that application. F1 once to find internet application help, or Alt plus Q to activate the search engine from within the program. And that's going to allow you to type in a query or a piece of text and find any results that match that from within the application. Think of Google, but for Word. Okay, and the last thing that I want to showcase tonight was just a dialog box, okay? A dialog box is just a group of controls that are clustered together. And these controls are all very related. A dialog box has controls that affect something, a particular aspect of Word. For example,
Training and Employment Services Austin Lighthouse /T Blind has joined the meeting.
There we go. Oh, in this case, we're going to look at the font dialog box. Okay, the ribbon is a dialog box. It's a massive dialog box, but there's two things that differentiate the ribbon from a dialog box. Okay, the ribbon is something that's specific to Office applications. Okay, a dialog box can be found anywhere that a computer has access to any form of application, right? For example, internet. You see dialog boxes on the internet, or the Windows settings program is a dialog box. So dialog boxes are just controls that you move through with the tab key and then interact with. The ribbon, similarly, is just something that you move through with the tab key, but it's only specific to Word. And I want to show you one quick thing before we get into the font box. I'm gonna move to the Home tab.
Escape, leaving menus, leaving ribbon, Alt H, lower ribbon, Home.
And that's with Alt H. And next time we'll talk about tooltips and key commands and things of that nature. But in this one, we're going to move to the font group box.
Home, clipboard, paste, split, font edit combo collapsed, delivery left pair.
Okay, so we're in the Home tab and I'm in the font group box. And again, we'll talk about group boxes next time. So we are here in the font group box, and the first option in here is an edit combo for changing the font. So right now we have it set to Calibri. I'm going to go ahead and type time for Times New Roman. Hit down arrow.
Calibri, Times New Roman.
And hit enter.
Leaving menus, leaving ribbons, print view, edit.
Now we've changed the document font from Calibri to Times New Roman. So that's one thing that changes from the ribbon to a dialog box is a ribbon. A ribbon is going to allow you to change things, but you can only change one thing at a time. A dialog box is going to let you change several things that are related at once. For example, Control-Shift-F to access the font dialog box.
Control-Shift-F, font, edit combo, Times New Roman.
So here we have it at Times New Roman. If I were to tab,
font style, edit combo, regular.
I have the font style. And here I can change the font style to like italic,
bold.
All right, we'll set that to bold.
Size colon, edit combo, 11.
We can change the font size.
12.
I'm going to down arrow to 12.
Font color, left parent, automatic.
Here we can change the color.
Underline style, colon, comma.
We can underline.
Words,
So I'm going to go ahead.
Words only, 2 of 8.
I'm going to underline all my words only. And you can do a lot of things that are directly related to font and text, right? So you can just keep tabbing, and you're going to interact with different control types in this dialog box.
Alert from Training and Employment Services, Austin Lighthouse F/T blind to all panelists, colon, is everyone able?
Yes. So in this case, we can change all of the different things at once that are directly relevant to fonts. Now, I'm going to wrap this up by tabbing to OK.
Under, strike, doubles, super, subscript, small.
I'm just tabbing through the different options.
All cap, hidden, set as text, OK button to act.
And I'm going to hit enter.
Edit. And
now, instead of changing one thing from within the ribbon, I've changed a bunch of different things with one journey to the dialog box, right? It's like going to a buffet instead of a restaurant. You're very hungry. So I went to the font dialog box. I chose everything that I wanted to change at one time, and then I just tapped to the OK button. If I had gone into the ribbon, I would have had to change fonts, left the ribbon, go back in, change font size, left the ribbon, go back in, change the underline, over and over, take multiple journeys just to get to the same result. And so next time I'm going to put these things together, because the ribbon has access to these dialog boxes, and it's going to make things a lot quicker. So I really do think that's a great introduction to Office Word. We didn't do too much actual text editing, but we'll get into a little bit of that in our next.
To all panelists, colon, this is very helpful, especially the help features and Alt Q. Are these Windows commands or JAWS commands?
These are actually Windows commands. Alt Q, for example, is directly integrated into Office. So let's say you were using Office without JAWS or any sort of assistive technology, then Alt Q would do the same thing. Insert F1 twice quickly, for example, is going to bring up JAWS specific help. So that's only going to be available when JAWS is on. But a lot of this actually is mainly Windows commands. They are mainly Windows commands, like hitting Alt or F6 to move by Pane, hitting Alt to open the ribbon, and tabbing through the different parts of the ribbon. That's all Windows. All right. But for example, I believe Control-Shift-F is only JAWS. I think that's no, that's not JAWS. That's also Windows. And that's the cool thing. Freedom Scientific no longer really has to include JAWS-only commands. A lot of these commands are actually included by Microsoft, by Apple, by companies who know that a lot of the people who use these programs are keyboard users because of one or two or three disabilities that they may have. So they understand that the mouse is not the only way of carrying out actions, but that there are multiple ways of doing things. And that's the cool thing. So I urge people to read the webinar journal. I urge people to look at the handout, or to just listen to this handout. To listen to this audio presentation in the future. And I believe we are still working on getting those uploaded. So we will definitely get those up on the archive. Next time, I'm going to be giving you guys a demonstration of more demonstrations of how to use dialog boxes to carry out things like changing the font and different attributes, how to save a document, give it a name and assign a type to it, and put it in a certain part of your PC, and how to open and close documents, as well as a few other things. But and it's to sort of expand a little bit more on the ribbon and give you guys an introduction to what are called key tooltips. And that's just ways of carrying out ribbon-specific actions really, really fast. And tooltips are not specific to JAWS. They are most certainly Microsoft Windows commands. So stay tuned for that one next time. Let me see if there are any questions or hands at the moment. Bear with me real quick.
Share left, annotate button, remote more button, drop dock to bottom, but stop share left, mute, audio settings, start video setting, open participants panel, 8 part, more options for alert from Diana to all panelists, are these commands the same for Excel and PowerPoint and Outlook?
Yes, a lot of this Alt Q, for example, is going to be available on all 4 of those applications that you mentioned. Alt-H is going to take care of the home tab of all those applications, right? Because all those applications have a home tab in the ribbon. However, Excel has a data tab, for example. So Alt-A in Excel will take you to the data tab. In Word, let's see what Alt-A does.
Document 1-Word.
Let's go over to Word and just chord Alt plus A.
Alt lower ribbon, home tab to switch pages. Press
Nothing.
Alt plus tab, Alt followed by H.
So it just defaults back to taking you to the home tab because in Word, Alt-A doesn't exist, right? It doesn't do anything. It's going to take you back to the home tab because that's the first tab. But in Excel, there's a data tab and Alt-A will get you there. But all of these keystrokes, while they might differ very, very slightly across the different applications, they're going to carry out very similar tasks. Like Alt plus another key is going to take you to a different part of the ribbon, or Alt Q is going to open the search box, or F1 is going to take you to the internet and give you information directly related to a specific application that you're on, right? But Control-Shift-F is going to open the font box here, but it won't do that in Word because there's no need for that. It's going to open the font box in Word, but it will not open a font box in Outlook unless you're in the body of a message, of course, because that's another story. But if you were in the list of emails, there's no need for Control-Shift-F to open a font box because you're not going to be able to write anything in the list of emails.
Escape, edit.
So, but no, these are all, most of what I've shown you here is Windows specific. There's very little JAWS specific commands that I have demonstrated tonight. And I will be showing you several more JAWS commands as we dive further into the rabbit hole of Word and keystroke, the keystroke heaven that is Word, or that is Microsoft with JAWS. If there's a command or there's an action to be carried out in Office, JAWS has a keystroke for it, or more Windows has a keystroke for it. So you're going to use a combination of the two, but I'll do better at letting you guys know. So please remind me if I forget. I'm going to do a better job of letting you guys know if something is JAWS specific or if it's just something that Windows gives you by default. All right.
7:27 p.m.
So 7:27, I think that's a good place to wrap up tonight's presentation. Once more, I want to thank everyone here for joining us. Let me see real quick if there's any questions before I don't want to leave anyone. So bear with me real quick.
Enter. Participants left parent, right parent. Panelists left parent, escape.
Actually.
More options. New share left.
Yeah, and Eric, right now, this is Angie. There's no questions. However, I am not able to add the Word document in this, so it'll have to be on our webinar. When we post it, we'll have to include that as a special attachment.
Alert from Diane.
Wonderful. Right on. So because Angie's having some technical difficulties right now, she will not be able to add the webinar, the handout with the webinar, but it will be available. And we will, if you want the handout, we can email it to you because the webinar might not be up for a few more days on our archive. But if you do want it, please email either myself or Dan at our emails, eric.cifuentes@austinlighthouse.org or dan.hart@austinlighthouse.org. And if you have more suggestions or questions, email us. If you are interested in taking classes, which we are conducting via Zoom. So if you have Zoom, JAWS, Fusion, or Zoom Text, and you want to learn Office or Windows or internet browsing, talk to us, email one of us, and we can add you to our log of prospective students, and we'll get you in for an assessment via Zoom. And we will talk to you and evaluate what you need. And we will do exactly what I did with you guys on a one-on-one basis. And
hey, Eric,
hopefully, yes.
Sorry to bother you. This is Angie. I know we have like 1 minute left, but we did have one final question on there.
Okay.
It says, how do we see the list? Oh, wait, hang on. We got to scroll back up to see what it says. How do we see the list of commands, window commands?
Okay, window commands is insert W, and JAWS commands, I believe, let me see.
JAWS context menu, utilities, escape.
Okay, so insert W brings up Windows commands, and insert H will bring up JAWS commands. That's actually a really good question, and thank you for reminding me to tell you that. So Windows W, for example,
following our useful Windows keyboard commands,
is going to give me a list of commands.
Escape, annotate.
And so that's pretty cool right there. Were there any more questions? I think that's it.
Yeah, I think we're We're pretty good. I think that's everything. Someone posted some links or something, but
Cool.
other than that, I think we're good.
Alert from John Woodley to all panelists, Here are some links to virtual platform accessibility issues and best practices posted by others for your reference,
Cool. Oh, we will definitely check that out. Thank you so much, John. Actually, that is really interesting. I'm going to check that out. All right. Well, hey guys, this is just part one of hopefully a 6 to 9 part presentation. I know that Word is going to go on for 3 parts, but that's because part 1 and 2 really are just an introduction to Office as an environment, not so much necessarily Word. The third part of Word will focus a lot on things like text manipulation and adjusting attributes. But this next part that we go on is going to talk a lot about controls and dialog boxes and saving and opening and stuff of that nature. Because before you can edit something, you got to be able to open it. And these first 2 parts really do cover a lot of the fundamentals of Office as a whole. So again, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight, and to anyone listening to us in the future on the archive. Very, very soon, we'll be listening to us on the archive. And to Miss Dr. Laura Miller from Northwest Ice Cares for sending her people that she works with to us to hopefully give you guys a little bit more assistance or more knowledge to work with. So for Eric Cifuentes from TES and Angie Hall, I want to thank you all and have a good night. We will see you soon. Bye-bye, everybody.
Alt F4, end me, leave meeting, cancel, leave me space.